All right, now I've opened up my line work, my spot illustration line work in Illustrator, and I've got all this space around it. First thing I'm going to do is lock it, make a new layer on top, so I can easily turn it off and not have it be part of my solution. And then I'm going to go straight to the type tool, which is the big T. And with that type tool, thinking of my sketch, which I might want to have open. I could even open this up in Illustrator if I wanted to. Have that run in the background. If you don't have your vector line work, you could do that. What I'll do is actually copy it all, move it behind my vector line work. I guess I didn't copy it accurately enough. Let me try that again. Put it in. I want it to sync up with my line work, so I'll move it behind. And I'll just use the large selection tool to kind of line it up pretty well. That doesn't match exactly. That's okay. This is just to get an idea. And now before I lock that, because it's really quite dark, I'm going to take its transparency down about halfway. So I want to select it all, take its transparency down to about 50%. Maybe even a little bit less than that. So I know what's there, but it's not going to affect how I'm seeing the type. Okay, now after I've done that, I'm going to lock it. I'm going to make a new blank layer on top of everything, and this will be for my text. And I want my text to be just black fills on with no stroke. And I draw a box, nice big box for that Putin. And in that, I start typing. So I know for my sketch, I just want his first name, Putin. I'm going to select it, then I can choose my font right here. And all my different options are in there, starting with Barbarian. And then you want to make it nice and big with these point sizes so that you can see it clearly. So let's see, let's try 200. So that's pretty epic looking, right? That's one solution I might want. Now how do I bend it? Well, there's this tool right here. While it's still a font tool, I can warp it. And to keep it all very clean, I try to keep everything in the font tool and the text tools as long as possible before I just turn them into outlines to modify. But here I can bend the arc. I want to make sure I preview it. And I can bend the fonts, and I can change their perspective a little bit. I don't want any distortion on the horizontal, but I do want a little bit of vertical distortion. But not a lot. Yeah, I'd say about right there. And now with the large selection tool, I can also transform it, right? Change its scale. I can even just squeeze it. By holding down Option, I can squeeze it from the middle. Just like we've played with before. I can even kind of fit it around his head or put it right behind, but just kind of see how that works. Now, honestly, I like this one a lot because it looks like a rainbow. And I want to play with the coloring, with even though it's a super masculine pose. I'm going to play with kind of rainbow coloring and do a little bit of that. A little poking fun at his poor human rights record on homosexuality. So I was planning on having kind of rainbows behind him on the poster, but I can even do that a little bit with the font here. If I make that a rainbow instead of this really like hard-edged image. So I still want to play with it some more. What's difficult about this one is that with the straight lines running through it, I can't modify it. I can't modify the straight lines anyway with a lot of impunity without kind of messing it up. So if I go back to the type tool, when I select it, you'll see it in my layers. It will let me modify it in all the ways that are appropriate. So I think that works pretty well. Okay, now what I like to do is just save that type tool layer, copy it, lock it, turn it off, make a new layer, paste it in place, and now it's still a type tool, which means that I can edit the actual font. Right. And now let's try a different font. Same lettering, same size, but let's try Space Cruiser or something else. So other ones I like Should Have Known. And I have some different options. I want to try Shaded. Okay, and I'm going to try a much smaller font size. Because the point sizes can be very different depending on the vector design that's there. And that one's pretty cool too. So that's what the text is, but then this is with all those modifications. And you see how they're kind of linked together. And that's pretty great. That's a hard decision. And I can line up the bottoms of those shadows right with his eyes. But I like how stereotypical that is for like kind of 80s cartoons and silly masculinity. Now this one I might want to just rotate a slight bit, like so. And it still gives you the arc. All right. So you could try as many solutions like that as you like. And then I'm going to save them. And I'm going to start working on the Ritz. So I have that option now. I can turn off the others and just see it on its own, that I can modify and work with, or I have this option. And looking at the two next to each other, I think this is the one I'm most excited about. And if I wanted to, I could probably find a way to integrate the rainbow into it. You see how they actually line up pretty well. So some exciting possibilities there. Okay, next, the on the Ritz part. But before I do that, let me save this. And I want to save it as my assignment 8 type solutions. Keeping them as type tools, not just vectors yet. As an EPS to the desktop for now. It will save all my layers when I open it up in Illustrator. Okay, now the on the Ritz part. Select this layer, lock everything else, go to the type tool, block it in. Quite a bit smaller. Let's try 72. And with black fill, no stroke outline. Start typing. I'm going to keep the same font for the beginning here. But maybe I want to try something else with this box. So maybe I love the way the looks. Maybe I want to make one box which has these stacked on top of each other. And has them centered. And now we get to play with some other aspects of type design, which illustrators seldom think about, but the spacing between the text, between the lines of text. And do you want to be able to control that by hand, or do you want to use the type tools? And for that, you go to the paragraph tools. And you play with what's called the kerning between the letters like that. And then if I want to play with the individual type, I can try different font sizes so that the on is just as wide as the. Like so. It can be a little aggravating trying to deal with all of that in Illustrator. And then you just use the large selection tool to isolate the different elements you want. And then once you have them, you move them into place. You can select it individually. Lock it, and I can do the next type solution, which is the Ritz. I don't think I do want that to be the same type. So I want to look at some of my other options. Let's try super die. And they'll show you samples of them here. And you might even have a stock font that you like. Yeah, it's not great. What are some of the others? I'm keeping my inspiration in mind. Really is kind of the closest. I really don't like that Z, so I'll have to modify that. And I can try the different paragraph tools for this. individual spaces.